I've just seen a different photo from a different angle, which seems to show quite a lot of the squad, including Lionel Messi, holding that banner and laughing and joking. Absolutely outrageous. Can you imagine the reaction if England players had done that? Got through to the final and unveiled a banner that said the Falklands Islands are British? There would have been uproar, and rightly so. It is a disgraceful, shameful politicisation of a football tournament.
One moment changed everything. England looked calm and in control for 85 minutes, but their World Cup dream vanished in just 7. They defended with real discipline, battled for every loose ball, and stood only minutes away from ending 60 years of heartbreak. Then everything flipped in an instant. A 39-year-old changed the entire match. 2 dangerous crosses, 2 crucial goals, and England's hopes disappeared into the warm Atlanta night. What looked like a famous victory suddenly turned into another painful chapter that fans won't forget anytime soon. But this story didn't begin when the match kicked off. The drama had already been building for days. It all started with a referee appointment that exploded into non-stop debate across social media. Algeria submitted an official complaint. An Egyptian coach suggested the tournament was being influenced. 2 English referees were ruled out of the biggest match of their careers, and one statistic had England supporters talking before the first whistle even blew. Lionel Messi had never lost a match with this referee in charge. Not once. In this video, we'll break down everything that happened in the 2026 World Cup semifinal between England and Argentina. From the tactics and game-changing moments to the biggest talking points. By the end, you'll see how Argentina broke English hearts once again, and why many fans believe the controversy and conversation had already started long before either team stepped onto the field in Atlanta. This semifinal was about much more than a spot in the World Cup final. To understand what happened on July 15th, 2026, you have to look back through decades of history. England and Argentina don't just share a rivalry.
In their grasp, but threw it away as Argentina fought back to defeat Thomas Tuchel's side by 2-1. It was a horrible, disgusting first half of a match.
They've been locked in one of football's biggest feuds for nearly 60 years. Every time these two teams meet, the pressure feels massive. It all started at Wembley during the 1966 World Cup quarterfinal. Argentina captain Antonio Rattin was sent off in a match packed with tension, arguments, and non-stop drama. After the final whistle, England manager Alf Ramsey described the Argentina team in words that caused huge anger. Those comments left a mark that many Argentine supporters still remember today, and the bad blood never really went away. Then came Mexico City in 1986. Only 4 years after the Falklands War, the two nations faced each other again in another unforgettable World Cup quarterfinal. The stakes couldn't have felt any bigger. Diego Maradona produced 2 of the most talked about goals football has ever seen in the space of just 4 minutes. The first came when he used his hand to knock the ball past Peter Shilton and into the net before the referee allowed the goal to stand, creating the moment forever known as the Hand of God. Just minutes later, Maradona weaved past almost the entire England team before scoring a goal that many people still call the goal of the century. Argentina came out on top that day, and England were left with another painful World Cup defeat. From that moment on, the rivalry reached a whole new level. Every meeting between these two teams seemed to carry extra pressure and plenty of emotion. In 1998, David Beckham was sent off after reacting to Diego Simeone during a round of 16 match that England eventually lost on penalties. 4 years later, Beckham got his moment back by scoring the winning penalty in a 1-0 group stage victory. For many England fans, it finally felt like one of football's biggest heartbreaks had been answered. Then the meetings stopped. But rivalries like this never truly disappear. They just wait for the next chapter. For 24 years, the World Cup bracket kept England and Argentina apart. Two football giants kept missing each other until 2026, when they finally met again in Atlanta with a place in the World Cup final on the line. Even more surprising, Lionel Messi had never faced England during his international career. At 39, in what many expected could be his final World Cup, he was finally set to meet them with everything at stake. The debate had already started long before kickoff. As soon as England reached the semi-final,
I think we were deservedly up. I felt that we deserved to be up 1-0. I think the momentum changed after that. They had nothing to lose. We suddenly played like we had a lot to lose.
attention quickly shifted to the referee appointment since FIFA rules prevent officials from taking charge of matches involving their own country. Because of the long history between England and Argentina, English referees are not assigned to Argentina's matches during the tournament. That meant Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor, two of the competition's highest-rated officials, were no longer eligible to take charge of either semifinal once England secured their place. It was a major talking point before a ball had even been kicked. Michael Oliver had already officiated 4 matches and was seen by many as a leading candidate for the World Cup final. Reports claimed the decision also ended his tournament early and cost him a significant performance bonus. Instead, FIFA appointed Ismail Elfath, a Moroccan-born American referee who has been working in Major League Soccer since 2012. Elfath brought plenty of experience into the match. He had officiated the 2022 MLS Cup and also served as the 4th official during the 2022 World Cup final between Argentina and France. Even so, as soon as his appointment became official, social media lit up with debate. Fans from all sides began sharing statistics and opinions, adding even more attention to the referee before kickoff. The conversation grew even louder when people started pointing to the numbers. Since Lionel Messi joined Major League Soccer in 2023, Ismail Elfath had officiated 5 of his matches, and Messi's team had won every one of them. Combined with Elfath's role as the 4th official in the 2022 World Cup final, many people online began creating their own theories and narratives. While those statistics fueled discussion, they did not by themselves prove that the referee would influence the outcome of the semifinal. With Ismail Elfath involved, Messi had never ended up on the losing side in those matches. That statistic quickly spread across social media and became another major talking point before the semifinal. Some critics also looked back at moments from Elfath's MLS career to support their opinions. Nashville supporters questioned a yellow card shown during the 2023 Leagues Cup final. Some Orlando City fans also argued that a red card given to one of their young players in March 2026 after a challenge involving Messi was too harsh. Those moments were added to the growing online debate, with some supporters claiming Inter Miami's biggest star received extra protection. Still, it's important to separate opinions from verified facts.
It is almost impossible to analyze this Argentinian national team. They look like they're dead and buried every single game in the knockout phase, and yet they consistently pull a rabbit out of a hat every single game.
There is no credible evidence that Ismail Elfath favors Messi or Argentina. Referees do not choose which matches they officiate, and statistics alone are not proof of bias. Even with that in mind, the discussion kept getting louder, and by July 2026, the conversation surrounding Argentina's World Cup run had become one of the biggest storylines before kickoff. The semifinal also wasn't the first time people had questioned key refereeing decisions involving Argentina. During the group stage match against Algeria, many observers argued that Messi's challenge on defender Asa Mandy, which appeared to catch the calf and Achilles area, could have deserved a red card under the current interpretation of the laws of the game. Others, however, viewed the incident differently, and no red card was given during the match. The debate only grew louder after that moment. VAR reviewed the challenge but decided no further action was needed. Messi stayed on the pitch and went on to score a stunning hat trick, making the decision even more talked about. After the match, the Algerian Football Federation submitted an official complaint to FIFA over the refereeing decisions, keeping the controversy alive long after the final whistle. Then came the round of 16 against Egypt, and the arguments became even more intense. Egypt led 2-0 in the second half and believed they had scored a 3rd goal, but VAR ruled it out after identifying a foul earlier in the move. Later, as Argentina searched for an equalizer, Egyptian players appealed for a penalty after an apparent challenge on Mohamed Salah. The referee allowed play to continue without an on-field review, creating another moment that fans debated heavily. Argentina completed an incredible comeback and moved on to the next round. After the match, Egypt coach Hassam Hassan suggested that the officiating had unfairly favored the defending champions.
All over the piece, a lot of heartbreak for the players. Harry's told us about that. Did the better team win over the course of the game?
Other Egyptian football figures also criticized several decisions, with some claiming the tournament had gone against them. By the quarterfinals, social media had even given the controversy a nickname, VARgentina. Fans used the phrase whenever a close decision went Argentina's way or a VAR review sparked fresh arguments. For many people online, it became part of a broader theory that FIFA wanted Messi to reach another World Cup final because of the story they believed it would create. However, despite the widespread speculation, there is no credible evidence supporting claims that FIFA manipulated matches or officiating decisions to achieve that outcome. Those claims grabbed plenty of attention, but they were never backed by credible evidence. Even before the first pass of the semifinal, the tension was already impossible to ignore. FIFA's decision to appoint Ismail El-Fath became one of the biggest talking points because many fans online kept pointing to his record in matches involving Messi. That statistic added even more heat to the conversation before kickoff, even though it did not prove bias or wrongdoing. Still, it helped create a charged atmosphere as England prepared to face Argentina in Atlanta. By the time the players walked onto the pitch, the pressure and the noise surrounding the match were already at another level. England's road to the semi-final under Thomas Tuchel had been far from easy. They started the tournament with an exciting 4-2 victory over Croatia, raising expectations, but keeping that momentum soon became a challenge. A draw against Ghana and a narrow win over Panama left many supporters wondering if the team could really go all the way. The round of 32 brought another scare when England fell behind against DR Congo. Just when the pressure was building, Harry Kane scored twice late in the match to rescue a dramatic 2-1 victory. Then came the trip to the Estadio Azteca, the same stadium where Diego Maradona had broken English hearts in 1986. This time, England created a different memory. They ended Mexico's unbeaten World Cup record at the famous stadium with a thrilling 3-2 victory, powered by 2 brilliant goals from Jude Bellingham. But the celebration came with a setback as defender Jarell Quansah was sent off and suspended for the semifinal. The quarterfinal against Norway would test England all over again. England needed extra time, but once again, Jude Bellingham delivered when his team needed him most. He scored twice, including the winning goal to seal a dramatic 2-1 victory in the Miami Heat. Match after match, Bellingham had become the heartbeat of England's World Cup run, stepping up whenever the pressure reached its highest point. Even after booking a place in the Final Four, there were still signs that everything inside the England camp wasn't completely smooth. Following the win over Norway, Thomas Tuchel admitted his team had been fortunate to get through. He described the performance as sloppy, slow, and filled with technical mistakes, comments that quickly grabbed attention. Reports suggested Bellingham was surprised by those remarks. The two had already experienced public disagreements earlier in Tuchel's time as England manager, including discussions about Bellingham's reaction after being substituted. As England prepared for the biggest match of the tournament, people continued asking whether everyone inside the squad was fully on the same page. If England's journey to Atlanta was packed with close calls, Argentina's path had been just as dramatic. They finished the group stage with 3 straight wins, although the opening victory over Algeria was followed by major debate over several refereeing decisions as Messi scored a hat trick. The knockout rounds turned into a string of tense battles. Cape Verde pushed Argentina into extra time before eventually losing 3-2. Egypt raced into a 2-0 lead before Argentina fought back with a remarkable comeback to advance. Then in the quarterfinals, Switzerland stayed level until Breel Embolo was sent off in the 72nd minute, creating another huge turning point in Argentina's tournament run. Julian Alvarez finally broke the deadlock deep into extra time, and Lautaro Martinez added another goal to seal a 3-1 victory. It wasn't always a smooth ride, but Argentina kept finding a way to survive. No matter how difficult the match became, they always seemed to come up with a big moment when it mattered most. Before the semifinal, Argentina had already scored 9 goals after the 75th minute, more than any other team in the tournament. Time after time, they stayed alive deep into matches before taking control as their opponents began to tire. That late-game strength had become one of their biggest weapons. At the center of it all was Lionel Messi. At 39 years old, he had already scored 8 goals and was tied as the tournament's leading scorer. Every time Argentina needed something special, all eyes turned to him. Many fans also spotted an interesting coincidence before the match. Argentina chose to wear their dark blue away kit in Atlanta, the same color they wore against England in the famous 1986 World Cup quarterfinal, and again in 1998 when they knocked England out in the penalty shootout. Before kickoff, reporters asked Thomas Tuchel about the connection. He admitted he hadn't noticed it before and joked that if there really was any superstition behind it, he probably would have done the same. Credit to them, he said. Even so, plenty of England supporters couldn't ignore the coincidence. On July 15th, more than 70,000 fans packed Atlanta Stadium with a place in the World Cup final against Spain, waiting for the winner. The atmosphere was electric. The pressure was enormous, and everything was set for a classic showdown. But from the opening moments, it looked less like a football match and more like an all-out battle. The first half became physical almost immediately. Players from both teams crashed into tough challenges. Emotions boiled over, and appeals surrounded the referee after nearly every big collision. Several tackles left players on the ground, with both sides demanding fouls and disciplinary action. Some challenges looked serious enough that, on another day, a different referee might have shown a card. Instead, Ismail Elfath tried to let the game flow whenever possible, and that decision quickly became one of the biggest talking points of the match. Some praised his approach for keeping the game moving instead of filling it with yellow cards. Others felt the lack of early discipline allowed the match to become more heated and difficult to control. Neither team could settle into any real rhythm. Attacks broke down almost as soon as they started, passes went astray, and every promising move seemed to end with another whistle or another heavy challenge. By halftime, the score remained locked at 0-0, but the tension inside the stadium kept growing. Then came the moment England had been waiting for. 10 minutes into the second half, Atlanta Stadium erupted. In the 55th minute, Morgan Rogers looked up on the right wing and whipped in a perfectly placed cross. Anthony Gordon arrived at the far post and powered his finish past Emiliano Martinez. England finally had the breakthrough they had been chasing. They led 1-0 and stood just 35 minutes away from reaching the World Cup final and ending decades of heartbreak. But the match changed almost the moment the ball hit the back of the net. Surprisingly, it wasn't Argentina who shifted the momentum first, it was England. Instead of chasing a second goal, England gradually dropped deeper and allowed the defending champions to spend more time on the ball. The tactical change became obvious as the match went on. The substitutions made that approach even clearer. Reece James came off. Declan Rice, one of the world's best defensive midfielders, was also replaced. Dan Burn, the towering center back, entered the match along with another defensive option, Nico O'Reilly. England chose to protect their narrow advantage instead of continuing to attack, and that decision immediately sparked huge debate. Many fans questioned whether sitting back against an Argentina team famous for dramatic late comebacks was the right move. Cape Verde had pushed them to the limit before fading. Egypt had let a 2-goal lead slip away. Again and again, Argentina had found another gear in the closing stages of matches, and now they still had more than 30 minutes to find an equalizer. With nothing left to lose, Argentina threw players forward and kept piling on the pressure. Every attack felt more dangerous than the last. Then came a huge warning sign. Alexis McAllister climbed above everyone to meet a cross and smashed a header against the inside of the post. For a split second, England feared the worst, but the ball bounced back into play instead of crossing the line, giving them a massive escape. The warning signs kept coming, but England couldn't find a way to stop the momentum. Pinned deep inside their own half, they spent almost every minute defending wave after wave of Argentina attacks. Jordan Pickford came under relentless pressure, and his passing became less accurate as long clearances repeatedly handed possession straight back to the opposition. The attacking threat England had shown earlier had almost disappeared. By the end of normal time, the numbers painted a clear picture. England managed only 5 shots and finished with an expected goals total of 0.53. Argentina created 15 attempts with an expected goals figure of 1.84. Whatever fans believed about the refereeing or everything that happened before kickoff, Argentina had generated far more attacking opportunities across the 90 minutes. Then, in the 85th minute, the pressure finally produced a breakthrough. Enzo Fernandez fired a powerful effort from distance, forcing Jordan Pickford into a brilliant save that tipped the ball over the crossbar. It was a huge stop, but it only delayed the danger for a few more seconds. From the resulting corner, the ball eventually found Lionel Messi just outside the penalty area. As several England defenders rushed toward him, Messi stayed calm and slipped a clever pass to Fernandez waiting near the edge of the box. The midfielder curled a superb left-footed shot through a crowded penalty area and beyond Pickford into the corner of the net. The score was suddenly 1-1. The momentum had completely swung, and England's players looked shocked as Argentina sensed the chance to strike again. Supporters had already seen Argentina fight back against Cape Verde, Egypt, and Switzerland. Once they found a late equalizer, they rarely took their foot off the gas. Instead, they kept attacking until the very last whistle, always believing another chance would come. With extra time looking more and more likely, one final attack changed everything. In the second minute of stoppage time, Lionel Messi drifted into space on the right as England's tired defense struggled to close him down. He took one quick look up and delivered a perfectly weighted cross into the penalty area. Lautaro Martinez timed his run to perfection, slipped between the defenders, and guided a header beyond Jordan Pickford. Argentina suddenly led 2-1 in the 92nd minute, and England's dream of reaching the World Cup final was slipping away in heartbreaking fashion. The closing moments became even more intense. Jude Bellingham fouled Messi deep inside England's half, leading to another confrontation between players in a match that had already been packed with emotion and physical battles. Soon after, Emiliano Martinez collected a hopeful ball forward from England, remained on the ground briefly, and valuable seconds ticked away as Argentina moved closer to the final whistle. Then the moment arrived. Ismail Elfath blew for full time, and Argentina's players celebrated together while England's squad stood in disbelief. Argentina moved to within one victory of becoming the first nation since Brazil in 1958 and 1962 to win back-to-back men's World Cups. Meanwhile, England were left facing the disappointment of preparing for a third-place playoff against France, a match that few supporters had ever hoped to be thinking about. England's wait for another major trophy, stretching all the way back to the 1966 World Cup, would continue for at least 4 more years. It was another painful ending for supporters who had believed this could finally be the tournament that changed everything. Looking back at the semifinal, one player was involved in almost every decisive moment: Lionel Messi. He didn't score, but he didn't need to. His 2 late assists showed exactly why he remains one of football's greatest playmakers. In the biggest moments, he spotted the space, stayed calm under pressure, and picked the perfect pass. His influence went far beyond the numbers. For Argentina's equalizer, England's defenders were drawn toward Messi, creating the opening that Enzo Fernandez took full advantage of. For the winning goal, that same attention gave Lautaro Martinez the space he needed to attack the cross. Even at 39, Messi continued to shape the game without relying on pace. Instead of beating defenders with speed, he waited for one small lapse in concentration. The moment England's defensive shape lost focus for a split second, Messi made them pay. That's exactly what happened in the closing minutes, and it proved how quickly a match can change at the highest level. Another major talking point after the final whistle was Thomas Tuchel's substitutions. Replacing Declan Rice and Reece James with two taller defensive players made it clear that England's focus had shifted almost completely to protecting their lead. Many questioned whether that was the right decision, especially because Rice offered much more than just defensive protection during the match. Declan Rice offered much more than defensive cover. He helped England keep possession, eased the pressure, and gave his teammates a way to move the ball away from danger. Once he left the field, Argentina found it much easier to pin England deep inside their own half and keep the pressure coming. Dan Burn and Nico O'Reilly added extra height in defense, but England struggled to win the ball back or build meaningful attacks. Instead of calming the game by keeping possession, they spent long stretches simply trying to hold on. That tactical decision quickly became one of the biggest talking points after the semifinal. The attacking numbers also raised difficult questions. England finished with an expected goals total of just 0.53, a very low figure for a World Cup semifinal. Anthony Gordon finished his chance brilliantly, Morgan Rogers provided the key assist, and many observers praised Jared Spence for an excellent performance at fullback. Even so, Harry Kane was rarely given opportunities in dangerous positions, while Jude Bellingham had very little influence because England spent so much of the match without the ball. It's extremely difficult to control a knockout game when possession is almost completely handed to the opposition. The final 35 minutes summed up both teams perfectly. England spent almost the entire closing stretch defending wave after wave of attacks, while Argentina stayed patient, trusted their approach, and waited for the opening they believed would eventually arrive. And when it came, they made it count. That patience had become one of Lionel Scaloni's team's biggest strengths throughout the tournament. Argentina didn't always dominate matches from start to finish, but they repeatedly found a way to finish stronger than their opponents. By the end of this semifinal, they had scored 10 goals after the 75th minute, more than any other team in the competition. That wasn't just a coincidence. It had become a clear pattern. Fresh substitutes brought new energy. Messi carefully managed his minutes, and Argentina kept pushing forward until the very last whistle. There was also a mental side to it. After watching Argentina come back against Egypt and Switzerland, opponents knew the danger was never over, making every late attack feel even more threatening. When Enzo Fernandez scored the equalizer in the 85th minute, the momentum seemed to swing completely. England suddenly looked like a team trying to protect the draw and survive the pressure instead of one expecting to finish the job. Argentina, meanwhile, grew in confidence with every passing minute. The refereeing remained another major talking point after the final whistle. Ismail Elfath did not make a single obvious match-defining decision, such as awarding a highly disputed penalty or dealing with a clear red card incident. Instead, much of the discussion focused on his overall style. He allowed several physical challenges to continue without early bookings, especially during the intense first half. Some England supporters felt that approach suited Argentina's physical game and believed the time management in the closing stages could have been handled more firmly, while others viewed his performance differently. Many Argentina supporters saw things very differently. They argued that Messi was on the receiving end of several heavy challenges throughout the match and believed England's frustration became more noticeable as the game went on. That only added another layer to an already heated discussion. More than any single refereeing decision, the bigger conversation centered on the tournament as a whole. Algeria had submitted an official complaint after its group stage match. Egyptian football figures had also publicly criticized the officiating following their knockout defeat, while the nickname VARgentina spread rapidly across social media. Against that backdrop, many people online continued pointing to Ismail Elfath's unbeaten record in matches involving Messi. For some fans, that statistic added to their existing suspicions. For others, it was simply an interesting number that did not provide evidence of favoritism. The debate continued long after the semifinal ended, with opinions remaining sharply divided. In reality, the discussion had begun days before kickoff with the referee appointment itself. When a World Cup semifinal becomes surrounded by questions before the match even starts, it's understandable that confidence in the process can be affected, regardless of how the game eventually plays out. Many England supporters left Atlanta believing the circumstances had created unnecessary doubts. Whether those concerns were justified remains a topic of debate. Looking only at the football, however, Argentina created more chances, controlled the closing stages, struck the post, and stayed composed when the pressure reached its highest point. Those moments played a major role in deciding who reached the World Cup final. England defended with courage for long stretches, but once they dropped deeper and deeper, Argentina slowly took control of the match. The winning goal captured the difference between the two teams. Lionel Messi spotted the opening in an instant, delivered a perfect cross, and Lautaro Martinez finished with the calmness expected from one of the world's top strikers. Argentina's road through the tournament hadn't always been smooth or convincing, but they kept showing the qualities that matter most in knockout football. Resilience, patience, and the ability to deliver in the biggest moments carried them into another World Cup final. That's also why England versus Argentina is about much more than just the final score. Every generation seems to add another unforgettable chapter to one of football's greatest rivalries. From the controversy of 1966 to Diego Maradona's legendary display in 1986 to David Beckham's red card in 1998, this fixture has produced moments that fans still talk about decades later. The 2026 semifinal became another painful chapter for England, who led for 85 minutes before everything changed during the final 7. While the referee debate remained part of the discussion before, during, and after the match, attention now turns to football's biggest stage. At New York, New Jersey Stadium, Argentina will face Spain in the World Cup final. The match is set to bring Lionel Messi and Lamine Yamal together for the first time on football's grandest stage, with many viewing Yamal as one of the brightest stars of the next generation. Messi will also have the chance to help Argentina win back-to-back men's World Cups, something no men's national team has achieved since Brazil lifted consecutive titles in 1958 and 1962. No matter how people view Argentina's journey to the final, one thing is certain. The stage is now set for one of the biggest matches in world football. England, meanwhile, must regroup for a third-place playoff against France before returning home to face the difficult questions that this heartbreaking defeat is sure to leave behind. Thomas Tuchel's substitutions will be debated for a long time. Fans will replay those key moments again and again, wondering what might have happened if England had kept attacking instead of dropping deeper to protect their lead. It's one of those football decisions that will always spark the question, what if? By the time the next World Cup arrives in 2030, Jude Bellingham will be 27 and expected to be right in the middle of his prime. Harry Kane will be 36, and another chance to lift football's biggest trophy is far from certain. For England, the wait for another major title goes on. 60 years became 64 the moment Lautaro Martinez's header found the back of the net. When people look back at the semifinal, that may be the image they remember most, not the referee debates, not the online arguments, not even the tactical discussions. England stood on the edge of history but chose to defend their advantage while Argentina believed one more opportunity would come. In the end, that belief made the difference. Lionel Messi finally faced the last major football nation he had never met in international competition. And even without scoring, he helped decide one of the biggest matches of the tournament with 2 brilliant assists. Now just one final challenge remains, with another place in football history waiting to be claimed. What did you think of the semifinal? Did England make the right tactical decisions? Or should they have kept pushing for a second goal? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinion. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Football Compass, share this video with other football fans, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Every week, we bring you in-depth football documentaries, tactical analysis, legendary rivalries, and the biggest stories from around the world of football. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.